Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Downs. I'm the Executive Director of the National Coalition to Protect Civil Freedoms and a member of Project Salaam, two of the sponsoring organizations for this journey for justice. What a journey this has been. When Lynne set out to plot a course to Binghamton to deliver some petitions to Judge McAvoy in connection with the RF case, I don't think we had any idea of all the adventures that this was going to lead to. My respect for the post office has increased considerably if this is what it requires to deliver the mail. We've had heat and blisters and canoe mishaps and rain and just about everything else you can think of. But through it all, we kind of learned that there was some wonderful hospitality in the valley. People rallied around us, got Lynne down here and got the petitions ready to be delivered. And it, as Lynne will tell you, it takes a whole community to deliver some petitions. Why are we doing this? That's the question I think a lot of people would like to know. And I think what we have realized over the years is that the times require new tactics, new strategies. And what we really needed now are legal activists. Legal activists are people who are not lawyers, but who are able to mobilize the community, to express the will of the community. What we have realized is that the government, the courts, are not willing to stop the overreach of the government unless they are sure that the community is behind them, will support them. And we've seen over and over again situations where the community has rallied around and expressed their will, and the courts have often upheld that view, even though in other circumstances when there wasn't community support, they have not. And so this is an action of community activists trying to bring to the attention of the courts the great injustice that was done to Yasin Araf. His picture is here in front of me, and his co-defendant Mohammed Hussein. And so part of what we wanted to do here today is to tell a story. And so I'm going to bring up some people here who are going to tell you different parts of the story. The first person that we're going to ask to come up here is Kathy Manley. She is a lawyer, and she has put together a petition which is going to be presented to Judge McAvoy, asking for a new trial for Yasin Araf based on new evidence. She is a partner or an associate in Kinlan and Shanks, and also a member of the National Coalition to Protect Civil Freedoms and Project Salaam. So, Kathy, would you come up?
Thanks. Good morning. So, in 2004, my client Yasin Araf was arrested, and he'd been targeted by the FBI in an incredibly unfair sting operation. And usually in these sting operations, in these fake terrorism cases, what happens is the government provocateur tries to get the targets of the sting to say really bad things on tape and to agree to do really bad things. And that did not happen here. Yasin Araf he was supposed to be witnessing, he did witness a loan, and the idea was that the loan was supposed to be money laundering from the sale of a missile, but he was never really told about that. He was never shown the missile. They said that would spook him, because if he knew there was anything like that going on, he would have wanted nothing to do with it. And he even said that he had no interest in supporting terrorism. So we thought he would be acquitted, but there was all this secret evidence that was given to the judge. And the trial attorney, Terry Kinlan, went through this whole process to receive a security clearance specifically so that he could see this secret evidence that was being given to the judge. Because you want to know what the judge is seeing in your case, you have to know. And they never showed any of it to him, only to the judge. And we never knew what was in there. But what happened was, because of that secret evidence, the judge told the jury that there were good and valid reasons for targeting our client, that the FBI had good and valid reasons. And so they looked at this evidence in the sting operation, which was really, really weak. And it was based on these conversations with this provocateur, I could talk a long time about what a shady character he is, but we don't have time. So they actually acquitted him for all these counts because there was no evidence that he had done anything wrong, until they got to the very last conversation. And he said nothing more there. He was given no new information in that conversation. Yet, the jury was afraid to acquit him completely because they were told, not just by the prosecutor, but by the judge, who's supposed to be neutral, that there were good reasons why the FBI was going after Yasin. So I believe they were just afraid to acquit him. It reversed the burden of proof. They thought he was innocent, but they were afraid that maybe there was something going on. Maybe he was some kind of bad guy. And we never knew what that secret evidence was until very recently. We even went ahead and we did the appeal to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. And I do appeals for a living all the time. And any one of those 10 points that we argued would have been reversible error in any fair case with any fair court. But the decision from the Second Circuit got the facts wrong, got the law wrong, certain parts of the law wrong, and it totally ignored most of our arguments. And it was just, I didn't know what was going on. And then just very recently, Yasin himself, from prison, he got a 15-year sentence, so did his co-defendant. Yasin put in a FOIL request to the FBI, which we had done before and got nothing. But in the very end of 2011, he received some documents from them. And those documents showed that this was started with a case of what we believe was mistaken identity, that they thought he was somebody else, somebody named Mohammed Yasin, somebody who was in Al-Qaeda. So the judge was told all along that Yasin was in Al-Qaeda. And so we got this information, and we know he's not in Al-Qaeda. We Googled the name Mohammed Yasin and Al-Qaeda, and we did find this guy, Mohammed Yasin, and he was killed in 2010 in a missile strike. So by that point, they definitely knew it wasn't Yasin, and I think they knew earlier. There was a lot of stuff in the paper about this guy in 2005, a year before the trial, but they never corrected this information. And so it explains the appeal decision too, because the appeal judges were given all the secret evidence too. There was a secret brief, and then there was a top secret brief straight from Washington. We never got to see any of that. We had our oral argument with the judges on the appeal, and then there was a top secret oral argument that we didn't get to see, but the appeal judges got to see. So now we know why the judge told the jury there were good reasons for targeting him, and why the appeal judges did what they did with that decision. It's, the law, it was like they were following one set of rules and we were trying to follow the normal rules that I was taught in law school, and it wasn't working because it was based on secret evidence. And now that we know that it was the wrong guy, we're hoping that Judge McAvoy will feel that he was misled by the government, whether either they knew or they should have known that this evidence was false at some point. And he was given all this stuff, he was given a certain impression that was false. And so now we're asking him to reevaluate the case and have a hearing and hopefully grant a new trial. And so that's why we're all here today, and I'm so glad that Lynne did this amazing thing and that everybody's been supporting her along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Kathy has put together a really compelling set of papers, and we believe that this is going to completely change the nature of the case. But first we have to get the judge to pay close attention, to give careful consideration to it. And in these times, when there is so much Islamophobia and fear and in the community, we felt that it was important to get community activists involved. This is too important to leave only in the hands of the lawyers. You got to have the whole community involved. So now I want to go to Lynne Jackson. Can you stand? Yeah, okay. Lynne Jackson, and she's going to tell you about how she put together this trip to call attention to what is really important. And Lynne, you're somebody really special.
Oh, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to see you all here. Well, hi, my name is Lynne Jackson, and I'm from Albany, New York. Today, the journey for justice reaches its destination at the federal courthouse at 15 Henry Street. In a few minutes, I will walk in to the courthouse and deliver these petitions that I have carried, and I will give them to the clerk of the court. I have arrived here by walking 82 miles, paddling 25 miles, and having Jack Gilroy walk the final 26 miles for me. Why the journey for justice? When I knew Yassine's lawyers were going to file a new appeal for Yassine, I asked myself, what can I do to help? The answer came very quickly. I'll just walk to Binghamton and deliver signatures on a petition for the support of Yassine. It seemed like a perfectly logical thing to do. I am here because I want the judge to know how much people in Albany, New York, and around the country care about Yassine Aref. Why did I do this? I am an American. I believe a terrible wrong has been done to Yassine. I believe he was targeted for his religion, which is about as un-American as you can get. As an American, I believe it is my duty, my obligation, to stand up when I see something that violates the Constitution. I have never met Yassine Aref, but I have an obligation as an American to stand up and speak out for him when I believe an injustice has happened. This is what the petition the people signed says. Petition for serious consideration. Dear Judge McAvoy, we, the undersigned, hereby petition you to give serious consideration to a 2255 motion made to you by Yassine Aref that requests a new trial or dismissal of the terrorism-related charges against Yassine. Aref was convicted in 2006 and sentenced to 15 years in prison in a case where the outcome was largely determined by secret evidence. Now Aref has evidence that the U.S. government targeted the wrong person, confusing him with an Al-Qaeda agent who is now dead, and that this false identification was secretly given to the court to ensure Aref's conviction. We ask for serious consideration of Yassine Aref's assertion that the government targeted and convicted an innocent man. Sincerely, and the petition has been signed by 1,709 people. 1,709. I'm sure you have some questions about the mechanics of the journey, and I don't want to spend too long on this, but just, because you might want to know, how did I do this? I've been walking for long distances for many months now. I spent about a month training for it, and I worked on asking people, because this is a community event. It's not like I'm going to walk to Binghamton and stay in a hotel. So very kind people have put me up at their houses. I've met all kinds of people, and we had a driver every day to support me, so if I needed anything or if I got too hot, they would help me. What happened is that what happened during this trip is I didn't realize that the scheduled time would be during the worst heat wave we've had in a long time. I'm a very slow walker, and I thought I could just stroll all day. I just get up in the morning and I just stroll my 2 miles an hour until like 6 or 8 at night, and then I'd go stay at someone's lovely house and they'd give me fabulous dinner, and that would be a very pleasant way to spend 10 days. Unfortunately, the heat was so oppressive that some days I had to quit at 11 in the morning, which means that I didn't have enough time in the day to walk far enough. So Steve had this great idea that we should make up time by going and paddling down the Susquehanna. And so 5 of us went paddling down the Susquehanna, including Kathy and my husband Dan, and we went paddling down the Susquehanna. And unfortunately, we had a lovely time until 3 of us got caught in a strainer, which is a tree that strains boaters out of their boats. And my canoe was crushed, and we lost some things. But, we got back in our boats and we finished in Afton. So, but unfortunately, now the other problem is, I live in the city of Albany, and I walk on sidewalks, and sidewalks are flat. And I've walked miles and miles and miles and never had any problems with my feet at all whatsoever. However, when you walk on a highway, highways are not very pedestrian friendly at all. And highways are tilted, they are angled. And I always have to walk on the correct side because I need to face the traffic so the cars don't hit me. And what happened is because of the slant of the highway, I got a horrible blister on my right foot because I'm walking for hours with one foot higher than the other. And unfortunately, this blister, I would think, I've never had a blister before, and I didn't realize how serious they could be. But it prevented, and you noticed I arrived in a wheelchair, how embarrassing, but I couldn't continue, I couldn't walk anymore. But as my friend Lucy said, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a community to deliver petitions. And my friend Jack Gilroy walked the last 26 miles into Binghamton for me. And I thank him so much for his time. I also wish to emphasize that, you know, I did not do this alone. I absolutely did not do this alone. And if I stood here and thanked everybody who helped me, we'd be here until dark, and I think that would be too long. So I wish to thank everyone. I wish to especially thank Jean Finley, who helped me and supported me so much in the beginning, did a tremendous amount of the publicity and getting the word out on it. And Maureen Ahmad, who would call me every day and worry about me and fret over me, and she's the one who called the retired physician who I'd stayed at his house to see what I should do about this blister. And I wish to thank Kathy and Steve for all of their support and all of their wonderful help. And I see that the Hussein family is here, and my friend Ala is here, and I'm so happy to see them from Albany. And you have no idea how happy this makes me, and I thank them so much for coming. And most of all, I wish to thank my absolutely wonderful husband, without whose continuous support from the very beginning, I never would have even considered doing this walk, let alone finish it. I just have a few more remarks, and then I will let everyone, it's so hot in the sun. I would like to say that this is what Yassine wrote to me about my walk, and I just think it's a nice letter to read. He says, Dada Lynne, Dada means sister, Dada Lynne, hope you are well, healthy, and ready for your walk. Yes, indeed, I wish if I can be there and walk with you. As you know, I play soccer, and I'm in good walking and even in running. I thought I'm going to run here in the yard every day, the same distance you do, but now Ramadan is here and may slow me down. However, I will walk some every day. As I told you, my soul, heart, and mind are walking with you and flying above your head all the way. Be well and take it easy. I don't know what to say and how I will ever be able to thank you enough for all your help and support. I wish you to know how much I appreciate what you are doing. Please stay healthy and take good care of yourself. The journey for justice has reached its destination for today. But I think the journey will continue, and it's not over, because we need to continue to speak out and advocate for our Bill of Rights. I want to close with a poem Yassine told his friends when he left the Middle East to come to the US. He said, "Don't say goodbye, say see you later. If not on earth, we'll meet in heaven." Thank you so very much, everyone.
Thank you, Lynne. And Lynne didn't even go. Lynne didn't even go into all of the various dramas of the canoe trip, but she will probably give it to you later if you ask. What we'd like to do now is just bring up a couple of other people to fill in a little bit about what we are talking about. Today is a celebration both of the lawyers, Art, Kathy, and also of the citizen activist, the person who tries to get the message out of what the community itself wants and is willing to support. Up in Albany, we had an example of this in connection with this case about Yassine Arif, and it led to something called the Albany Resolution, in which the Albany Common Council took a stand requesting the federal government to treat these cases with more fairness. And I'm going to ask Dominic Carcelero, who was a former member of the Albany Common Council, to come up and talk about that, as he was the person that pushed this thing and was the...
Still there, I see him.
I'm not retired.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm pushing you out too soon. But he was the person that was the real genius behind this, because he was able to articulate it, put it together, and convince the Common Council that this was something that they should support. Dominic.
Thank you, Steve. I'm Dominic Calcelero. I'm a member of the Albany, New York Common Council, or City Council. And in April 2010, I introduced a resolution asking the federal government, the U.S. Attorney, to look at all these cases of what we're calling preemptive prosecution, where people like Aref and Hussein in Albany, and the Fort Dix 5, and the Newburgh 4, and all these other cases where people were set up by the FBI and stings, that these cases be open, that the defense get to see the evidence that the federal government had against them. You can't defend someone if you don't have the evidence that the other side has against you. It's called discovery. Everybody has a right to see. At least in America, we're supposed to have the right. I mean, that's why I have my Bill of Rights tie on. We're supposed to have that right. The defendants are supposed to have the right to see the evidence that the government has against you, and in order to be defended. So we had this resolution. Introduced it. Like I said, it was preemptive prosecution. It also asked the Attorney General to open up the cases, look at the cases. And it was actually based on a report that was done by Inspector Generals in the federal government, including the Department of Defense, and the U.S. Attorney General himself, his own Inspector General, did a study, and they recommended in this report that they did in 2009 that the U.S. Attorney appoint a special attorney to look at these cases to see if all the laws are followed correctly, if the evidence was shown to the defense, that they actually made this recommendation to their own U.S. Attorney. Nothing was done with that, so we tried to pass it, which we did pass, by the way, 10-0. 4 people voted present. We had a 15-member council. 1 person was absent, but nobody voted against it. And it was an amazing night on the council. More than 100 people came down in the city council. People from as far away as Virginia, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Newburgh, New York City, all the capital district came. The Ref family, we all met at a couple blocks from City Hall. We had a march at City Hall. They flooded the council. We have a public comment period in Albany. People spoke, telling us the stories. And the president of the Common Council, Carolyn McLaughlin, said she had never seen anything like this. And she had been an elected official by that time for 16 years, had never seen anything like that before. And when we were able to put a human face on a name, and people were able to see how affected families are by these cases, and that it wasn't just the family, that it was also the community around the family. It was the mosque community in Albany. It was a whole area around Central Avenue, major area of Albany where the mosque is located, that a ref was imam, that they were also under attack, you could say. It was unbelievable. And it brought up a lot of comments from the Common Council members. One of our members is Barbara Smith. She's one of the 100 women in America for the last 50 years that PBS did a story on. She was a civil rights activist when she was younger. She brought back her memories of the civil rights marches. Other people recalled the World War II and the camps. Not only they put Japanese in, but they put Italian Americans in, and that was brought up. And other people brought up the fights over civil rights, and it was just something. But the biggest thing was people got to see that these are real people. It's not just Muslims, that we're human beings all involved. And the biggest thing is that the federal government really should not be setting people up. The FBI should not be stinging people, should not create a crime so they can arrest you for that crime. And it's amazing. And we've been up and down the East Coast talking about the Albany resolution for the last 2.5, 3 years. A lot of people would like to do it. A lot of people are afraid to do it. They're afraid that if they do something like this, they're going to be targeted, they're going to be watched, and they're afraid. But we got a lot of support. But when it came down to putting that on paper and introducing it in the legislature, people backed off because they are afraid. And, this is America. We shouldn't be afraid. We have freedom of speech. We should be able to say what we need to say. We should be able to introduce a resolution on a local council or on a state legislative or even in Congress that says what we believe in, and not be fearful that we're going to be watched or followed by agents of the government. And that's what this is all about. So that's why we're here. Lynne is actually a constituent of mine. I represent her in the city of Albany, and she's the one that brought this issue to me, and I brought it to the council. And it's it's been great, and we're still following the case, and hopefully justice will be served after today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic.
And before we go on to the next one, speaker, I just wanted to mention that we do still have petitions over here, and if anybody would like to sign a petition, there's still time. We still like to get as many as we can. Now, the next person I want to bring up is Jack Gilroy. He's a famous person here in Binghamton. Retired high school teacher, an activist full-time now, veteran of 2 military services. He's published books. He's a former prisoner of conscience from the School of Americas in Georgia. He walked the last journey, last leg of the journey for justice, and he's written and published 2 novels and a series of plays that examine the power of conscience over the power of the government. So, Jack, can you come up here?
Thanks, Steve. I think what I say this morning is really from the Binghamton people to the Albany people. There are more people from Albany, I think, here this morning than from Binghamton. We congratulate you for taking that long trip down Senator Anderson's Highway 88, and we really thank Lynne for such vigor and such integrity in what she has been doing. My point that I'm going to be making this morning is something that I think most of you would agree on, and maybe I shouldn't even be saying it, but I'm going to do it anyway since I decided to type it out. And I'm saying is that our justice system is not broken, it's fixed.
Good point.
And what we need to do is break the fix, and that's not an easy thing to do. We should be here today calling for the imprisonment of war criminals. We should be here today to be calling for the imprisonment of George Bush and Cheney and the rest of that mob.
Yeah.
More than any nation in the world, the United States invades, bombs, destroys, and kills. And that's just the surface. That's just the surface. They are very secret and do despicable acts of assassination in Latin America, the Middle East, and God knows where. Names like Bush and Cheney and Obama and Biden are accepted for doing their job, strange as that may seem, which is killing people or displacing millions of people, and apparently that's not a crime in our warped society. The August 2013 issue of Scientific American, a much respected journal, usually in the science, get into social sciences occasionally, say that a harbor-boiling outrage of the people in the Islamic world is about U.S. foreign policy. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq in particular, and the United States' support for Israel and the Palestinian conflict. Religion plays a part, but not because they want to spread Sharia law, but rather they want to protect co-religionists against what was commonly seen to be a concentrated war on them in the Middle East by the United States government. So what we have to do is change the violent system of injustice and our attitude toward the Islamic world. If our system is not broken and it's fixed, then Lynne Jackson is one example of a way to fix it, and all of you here are part of that example. It's tied together with sweat this morning, these pages. Sting operations by the FBI would not be sending people to long prison terms. The FBI uses fiction to imprison people. Bush and Obama ordered people killed without even a hearing. Most of these assassinations occur in distant lands. Many of those killed have no connection to terrorism. Here in this great nation, 5% of the world's people, we hold 25% of the world's prisoners. 25% of the world's prisoners. We have 12% black population, 40% of our prison population is African American. Is that a just statistic? Americans are taught to accept injustice and live under the illusion taught by parents, school teachers, the media, and the U.S. government that we're a just nation. I've learned firsthand about our so-called justice system. I tried to deliver petitions to close the American Military Training School of Latinos at Fort Benning, called the SOA, School of Americas. We call it School of Assassins. We have the documents to prove it. I was charged with terrorism and convicted in 2001. I was convicted under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 1996, your beloved Democrat President Clinton's act. Dispatched and laid in arm irons, I really learned the injustice in our system. I've been with young men, mostly black, serving multiple years, 20 years or more, for drug sales or other crimes that in most societies would handle that in a different way, without jail, without prison. Injustice goes to the top. President Obama could release many of those in prison by executive order, just as he could do such things as close Guantanamo, close the U.S. Army School of the Americas. Yet he has the worst record of using that power than any president in modern history. He visited Mandela's cell on Robben Island off Cape Town. I did myself here a couple of years ago. It's pretty to go there if you ever get the chance. With his wife and daughter, and told the world press that he was shocked by it all. Yet he could release uncharged Guantanamo prisoners by executive order. Fails to do it. So what are we saying here? How can we get release of Yassin Arif and the many victims of fabricated cases? Let's press Obama to use his executive powers. Postcards, much better than letters, postcards. If you go down to and talk to the staffers in Washington, D.C., as many of us have, they say they much prefer postcards. Besides letters, they're fearful because there may be poisons in the letters, right? So they like to read short notices in postcards. Get some mailing groups together. Get a whole group of people. Send them not all at once. Stagger them. Send them over a period of a couple of weeks or a couple of months so that they're constantly getting that statement. What else can you do? Well, Lynne Jackson took thousands of steps and hundreds of petitions. So what can we do here in the Binghamton area? If we can get the information out to Binghamton peace groups, and we do have a fair number of them, to do things like we just mentioned, but the pressure in this particular case, not just Obama, but Judge Thomas McAvoy, Binghamton native, right? And contact him and ask him to please consider a repeal of this, to turn it down, or even to have another trial. But the evidence is out there. You don't need another trial. Arif needs to be released. Encourage family and friends and children to admit the horrendous injustices exist. We need to encourage teachers of our children to tell the truth, not mask the truth. And I have to say that as a teacher, an awful lot of masking goes on. We thank the media present today, but encourage them to tell the truth and ask themselves if so-called balanced news blocks the truth of unjust incarceration. There is no balance in injustice. Suspicious people can be managed in ways other than leading them to be part of a fictional terror act. Sting operations must stop. Let's focus on youth. Let's focus more on the heart. More on compassion. Compassion can be taught and it'll win over children's fear and disbelief and their belief in retribution, which they get obviously from the movies and from, you're up against a lot with the whole concept of retribution. But you can do it because they admire grandfathers, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles. So talk to them, and we've got to begin to change. What else? So what else is that we can work to turn things around by influencing schools to use less testing, and they can teach compassion. Some people say you can't teach compassion. Some of you I recognize here as teachers. You know that is malarkey. You can teach compassion. Schools are still fearful, school boards and administrators, of establishing peace and justice courses. I ask you in closing, does SUNY Albany have a peace and justice curriculum at the university level? I don't believe they do. They may tell you, but check it out. You'll find out it's not really true. Does Binghamton University have a curriculum in peace and justice? Not so. They had a woman here a couple of years ago who had one course, and she was fired because they didn't have enough money. She was making $20,000 a year. Sally Deer is her name. Sally lost her job. We have in this country that teaches so much about violence and accepts violence, we have no peace and justice courses in our universities. Very few around the country. Most of them are studies on war and the making of war. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, Jack. You are really a powerful voice, and I'm really so glad that you came and talked today. Thank you. Finally, I just wanted to call up Joe Lombardo to give the big picture. What has happened here to Yassin Araf is just part of a small microcosm of what has happened to Muslims and to others all over the country. Project Salaam and the National Coalition to Protect Civil Freedoms is following some 800 cases of what we consider preemptive prosecution. These are cases in which the government went after people because of possible suspicions that something might happen and actually convicted them based on false or contrived charges. And so Joe is the coordinator of the United National Anti-War Committee and has a huge impact. He's been all over the country, all over the world, actually. And he recognizes the connection between the peace movement to try to bring peace in the Middle East and the kind of preemptive prosecutions, the war on Muslims at home, the war on Muslims abroad, the war on Muslims at home. So Joe, you want to come up and just give us a little bit of a big picture?
Sure. What I'm going to do is just read a statement from the United National Anti-War Coalition. People should know that the anti-war movement in general in this country supports the Muslims, hundreds of them, who have been unjustly attacked and put in jail. We see this as part of the so-called war on terror that leads to the attacks in Muslim countries all across the world. So I'm just going to read our statement here. This is by UNAC, the United National Anti-War Coalition, which is the largest coalition of anti-war groups in the country, and I'm so happy to see the anti-war movement from Binghamton joining us here today. The United National Anti-War Coalition, UNAC, supports the new appeal for Yassin Araf. The appeal is based upon recent discovery that the FBI had originally intended to go after a man named Mohammed Yassin and not Yassin Araf. Had the defense been able to see this secret evidence used in the case of Yassin Araf and Mohammed Hossein, these cases may have never gone forward. Given this, we believe that the rest of the secret evidence used in these cases should be disclosed and examined. We call upon the government to accept the new defense motion and to reopen the case of both Araf and Hussein, along with providing full disclosure of all secret evidence. Secret evidence makes it impossible for any defendant to be given a fair trial. At the UNAC conference held in Albany in 2010, 800 anti-war activists from around the country came together to map out a strategy for our movement. At the end of the conference, we marched to the mosque that both men attended and where Yassin Araf was the imam. We did this because at the UNAC conference, the anti-war movement decided to support the hundreds of innocent Muslims who have been similarly victimized around the country. We saw that the FBI was sending agent provocateurs into mosques to try to persuade, cajole, threaten, and bribe Muslims to support fake plots invented by the FBI. The arrests of these Muslims then helped persuade many that Muslims are terrorists and gave false justification for Washington's war on terror against Muslim countries. At our Albany conference, we defined our tasks as opposing not only U.S. wars against foreign countries, but also the war at home. Besides the attacks on Muslims across the country, this war at home has also included attacks on anti-war activists, including leaders of UNAC and affiliated groups. 24 activists, anti-war activists, who are not Muslim, have had their homes raided by the FBI and been given subpoenas to appear before federal grand juries. Their computers, cell phones, and other personal possessions have been taken by the FBI in order to try to make a case that anti-war and solidarity activity is equivalent to providing material support, material aid to the enemy. If that can be shown, we are all in trouble. Since these events have taken place, we have seen through Edward Snowden's NSA leaks that every American is being spied on by our government. We have also seen the travesty at Guantanamo Bay, where Muslim men, mostly found guilty of nothing, continue to be indefinitely detained, force-fed, and imprisoned in medieval conditions. Aref and Hussein are serving long prison sentences simply because they are Muslim. George Zimmerman, who carried a gun, stalked an unarmed black teenager, confronted him, and killed him, walks free after being found innocent of any crime. This is a clear indication that juries are swayed by Islamophobia and racism in our society. The anti-war movement pledges to continue to fight for the freedom of Aref and Hussein and for all innocent Muslims serving sentences in the U.S. prisons today. This is signed by me, Joe Lombardo, and Marilyn Levin, co-coordinators of the United National Anti-War Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And now to end up, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Yes.
Perhaps for Ms. Manley.
Yeah.
Hi. So the crux of the argument is a kind of a mistaken identity for Mr. Aref. Can you maybe explain? And you guys are you're obviously advocating for the release and a new trial for both of these. How? What is the argument for the other defendant?
Well, Mohammed Hussein, we believe he's innocent too, and that he was entrapped, and that the whole kind of aura of secret evidence around this case, and the fact that his friend Yasin was, the judge told the jury that there were good reasons for targeting him. It kind of drew Mohammed into that and caused the jury to look at him very prejudicially too. There wasn't really evidence against him either. The informant talked to him a little bit more, but didn't really explain what was going on to him either. And he had never even heard of the group that the informant said he was working with, didn't know it was a terrorist group. So there's a lot of compelling evidence that he's innocent as well. But this new evidence has to do with Yasin Aref, so we're starting with him, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to help Mohammed Hussein too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like for skeptics, who are still not convinced, can you give some physical evidence that it was a case of mistaken identity?
Well, the Mohammed Yasin had 2 fingers, at least 2 or 3 fingers missing on one hand. So, and Yasin Aref didn't. So, if they knew that, they would have known it wasn't him. I think by 2005, if they'd been paying attention, they would have known that Yasin wasn't Mohammed Yasin, because there was enough evidence out there at that point about Mohammed Yasin, and Yasin Aref had already been in custody at that point, so they never changed their presentations to the judge, though. So that's a Brady violation, which is evidence that's favorable to the defense. It's supposed to be given to the defense, and they never gave it to us ever.
I'm also told that they were different nationalities.
But yeah, Mohammed Yasin is Pakistani. Yasin Aref is Iraqi. That's another thing, is that because Yasin Aref is Iraqi, he's an Iraqi Kurd, it was in late 2002 when they somehow got him confused with this guy who's in Al-Qaeda. And that was, remember, a time when the government was desperately looking for any connection between Iraq and Al-Qaeda. And here they have an Iraqi man that they're suspicious of, and they say, oh, we think he's in Al-Qaeda. So they wanted to find that. Anything else?
Any other questions? They all seem to have gone over to look at Lynne. Well, thank you all for coming. It's really great to see this great turnout today.
And thanks for all the people from Albany for coming down to visit. Thank you for coming here.
You guys have been so hospitable. We're going to come down every week.
When did you say your vigil's over?
Monday, 4:30 to 5.
Yeah, we do a vigil here every Monday from 4:30 to 5:30. Right there in that corner. Our vigil is 5 to 6 on Mondays.
Well, I wanted the judge to know that we really cared about Yassine Aref, and I live in Albany, and the judge's home court is in Binghamton. And I thought, well, perhaps the judge doesn't know that there is a tremendous amount of community support for Yassine in Albany. And when I knew that this motion was going to be filed, I thought, well, what can I do as a citizen? You know, I believe that secret evidence is un-American, and I asked myself, what can I do? And I thought, if I just drove it down, no one's ever going to know, right? No one's, you know, we collect a few signatures and go drop it off at the courthouse. No one knows about the case. But I figured if I walked, because so few people appear to walk these days, that it would be considered such an unusual thing to do. And I would just, it was a way for me to express to the judge how much we in Albany really care about Yassine Aref. And that is why I decided to undertake this journey for justice and walk 133 miles, though I didn't quite make it walking the entire distance. But it still became a community effort at the end because so many more people learned about Yassine's case and really became concerned about civil liberties in our country. And I thought it would be a really good way to express that.
You said you never met Yassine, but you were in contact with him?
Yes, I'm sorry. I've never met Yassine Aref in person. However, I've written letters to him, I've emailed him, I've spoken to him on the phone, but I've never actually met him because I didn't know about him until after his arrest.
And when he wrote you saying that he was going to be walking and, you know, as much as he could too, how does that kind of make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel very supported. I mean, you know, obviously he's really enthusiastic about this also, and clearly it would be better if he could make the walk with me, but obviously he cannot, and so it's a way of showing solidarity and support.
So you had you followed the case initially, or?
Well, when the arrest first happened in 2004, I thought, really, terrorists in Albany? This is ridiculous. And when I read the newspaper reports of the trial, because it took 2 years, mind you, for the case to come to trial, I thought, it seemed to me that the reporters were almost laughing at the FBI about how stupid this was. But it all became very serious when they were convicted, and I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked that they were convicted. And when they were sentenced, now after their conviction, the whole community in Albany, that wasn't me, but the whole community in Albany got together, they vigiled outside the courthouse, they got signatures on a petition, they wrote letters to the judge, and they did a lot of community advocacy for the two men. And so the men were given 15 years in prison. And when they were given 15 years in prison for a crime that wasn't a crime, I mean, it was Yassine Aref witnessed a loan, Mohammed Hussein took a loan. What is the crime in that? There's no crime in that. There's no violence, nothing happened, no one was hurt, nothing, you know, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, what if I lost 15 years of my life? What would that mean to me, to lose 15 years in prison? And I was so upset about that idea that I still didn't really want to get involved. But I sent CDs of Democracy Now! To Yassine Aref because he had said he liked Democracy Now! And I discovered you can't do that to prisons. Prisons can't send stuff like that to prisons. And he wrote me a letter that simply broke my heart. And that's when I really became, you know, because I realized he's a human being just like me. He has a wife, he has 4 children. And I was so taken that he would be given 15 years for something that I thought was ridiculous.